So the next exercise is the lapped zipper. You will cut two and transfer the pattern information from the pattern paper to fabric using your tracing wheel and tracing paper. Also it is very similar to what we did with the centered zipper, where you have the waistline marked and also you have the zipper stop placement indicated. So the next step I will do exactly the same with what I did with the centered zipper. I will sew from the edge of the waist seam all the way down to the zipper stop placement mark at the longest seam stitch length, which is number 5, and then from the zipper stop placement point all the way down, that's back stitching beginning and end at numbers 2 stitch. Notice that the seam allowance in this exercise is 5/8 of an inch, not half an inch. So you will sew at 5/8 of an inch from this edge at number 5 from the waist down up to the point where the zipper stop placement mark, and then from the zipper stop placement mark down it's going to be number 2 stitch back tacking or back stitching beginning and end. And then after that I will proceed to pressing my seam open and serging the seam allowance. So these are the preparation steps for the actual lapped zipper exercise. The type of zipper that we are going to use for this exercise is the regular nylon zipper or like a pants zipper or trousers zipper, and this is the type of zipper that we are using for this one. The length of the zipper should be somewhere between 7 and 9 inches. So I went ahead and I did the sewing from the top up to the point where there is the zipper stopper mark, and this is number 5 stitch. It's a temporary basting stitch to hold the two pieces together, and from the zipper stop down I did number 2 stitch back stitching beginning and end. I pressed the seam open and I serged both of the seam allowances. That if you are going to do a garment that is going to show the seam allowance on the inside, so it's an exposed seam finish for your garment. If it's a lined garment, you don't need to overlook or serge the edges unless your fabric is really fraying and you are trying to keep the integrity of the fabric. Otherwise, for regular fabric you don't have to do that. You can just leave it raw, and in this case the lining will have a raw edge also, and they will be facing and covering each other, so you don't need the bulk or the function of the serging in this case. But for an exposed seam finish for your garment, you will serge the seam allowance before you apply the zipper. Otherwise it's going to be really difficult to do that once you apply your zipper. Next, I'm going to transfer the information from the back of the seam allowance to the front of the seam allowance to indicate where the zipper stopper should be. So I am following my tracing lines, and I put a pin to indicate where the zipper stopper placement should be. And once I know that, I will align the lower edge of the zipper stopper with the upper edge of my pin. So and I will center my zipper on the seam, and then I will proceed to pin the zipper in place. Okay, so the right side of the zipper to the center of the seam allowance or the seam. So align it center to center and then pin in place. And I'll do the same thing over here, where I will align the center of the zipper to the center of the seam and add another pin. The next step, we will go to the sewing machine and start attaching the zipper to the seam allowance. So after we pinned the zipper in place, I'll take it to the machine to attach the zipper tape to the seam allowance. I pinned it first, and then I'll be stitching just the seam allowance to the zipper tape. I put perpendicular pins to attach it where it's supposed to be, and then I can remove them and just add some horizontal pins in place or parallel. Alright, so I pinned and I took all the non-involved fabric away out of my way, and I will be just working with the tape of the zipper and the corresponding seam allowance. And again, we are working, if you are looking on the inside of the garment, we are working on the left side of the zipper. Here is the zipper pull and here is the zipper stop, and the machine foot that you need to use is the zipper foot. In the Jukies, you have a right zipper foot and the left zipper foot. In the home machines, usually you can adjust the placement of the zipper foot according to where you want to work. So the same foot can give you a right piping or zipper foot and the left piping or zipper foot. How do I know which side of the foot I need to use? You need your foot to be holding onto the fabric, and the needle will be stitching right behind the held part of the seam. So in this case, I'm using the foot to hold both pieces together on the right side, and the needle will be stitching on the left side. This is a basting stitch, so I don't need to back stitch beginning and end. And also machine basting stitch is the longest stitch that you have on your machine setting, which in the Juki's case it is number 5 stitch. So I'll be removing my pins as I go, and again the centering the zipper to the center of the seam. The foot is helping me as my second hand, holding the two pieces together, and the needle is stitching right next to that on the left side. When I get to a pin, I'll just remove it and continue stitching. And then can just inspect and make sure that my zipper is centered, and until I get to the last stitch, I'm holding the center of the zipper to the center of the seam until I get the whole seam done. Once I get to my last stitch, I'll raise my foot and my needle, and I will trim my thread. You can leave about an inch thread. You will notice that there is a deviation a little bit, and that's again because of the zipper pull, because it's on the way. You can solve that by either opening the zipper and like in this case you will get a straighter stitch, or you don't have to worry about it actually. because this is just a holding stitch or a basting stitch until you stitch the zipper permanently to your seam. The next step, after I did baste the zipper tape to the seam allowance, I will flip the zipper to the right side. You will notice that there is a kind of part of the seam allowance folded back, and I need that actually, so that I can do the following step. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place a couple of pins to hold the fold back in place. I will do that, and then I will go back to the machine and I will do a permanent stitch where I am stitching the fold right next to the zipper coil. So I will pin it in place, just using a holding pin so that the hold is held, the fold is held right next to the zipper coil. And what I'm going to do is I am going to stitch at number 2 now, from where the bottom edge of the zipper stop all the way to the top, and in this case also I can move my zipper pull out of my way by opening the zip. I'm not afraid to do that because everything is held in place. So again, I'll start where the lower edge of the zipper stop is, and I am going to stop at the top edge, and the stitch length is the number 2 stitch, and I will back tack beginning and end because this is a permanent stitch. I adjusted my zipper foot to use the right side of the zipper, and I will align the fold with the edge of the zipper foot. So the zipper foot is holding the seam allowance and the zipper tape in place, and then I am stitching at 1/16 of an inch away from the fold. So I will back stitch a couple of stitches, and then I will change the direction to forward stitching, and I'll be stitching about 1/16 of an inch away from the fold, and I am removing my pins as I go. Keep your needle down when you are removing your pins so that you are sure that it's catching and holding the layers together. The other thing that you have to also take care of is that you are not stitching or involving the seam allowance, the center of the seam in your stitching. So you're stitching right next to that. So I'm making sure that that's the case before I do my permanent stitch. And I can do a little bit further. And then with my needle down, I'll remove my pin, and I can also raise the foot, push my zipper pull out of my way. I'm using my stiletto here as my second finger, and then I am going to continue stitching. So I will continue stitching until I get out, or I reach the edge of the seam, and then I'll back stitch. And this is this step. I'm raising my foot and trimming my thread, okay, beginning and end. And as you can see, my stitching is holding this side of the fold to the zipper tape. I'm inspecting my stitching, and there is an area where I don't like the stitching, so I will fix that before I proceed to the next step. So this area over here where the stitching is a couple of stitches are involved in the seam allowance and in the center of the seam allowance, and I don't want that. So I will kind of undo this part and reattach it again, and then I'll show you how to proceed to the next step. So now that I fixed my sewing, I need to do two things. One is to snip the holding stitch, which is the number 5 stitch that's holding the two seam allowances together. So I'll just snip it, but I'm not gonna take it out. Every about an inch or so, just to weaken the stitch and to make it easier to take it out when I'm done. And just like we did with the centered zipper application. And the other thing that I need to do is I need to draw the lap part on the right side of the garment. So I think I'm gonna do one more. I don't want to be too close to the edge because I don't want the garment to be apart. This is the right side of the garment. Under this seam right now, the right side is attached in place, and I need to draw the left side. So I need my ruler, and I need also one of the dry erase markers. I mean the heat erasable marker. And I will, so here is my center of the seam. I want to draw a line that's 3/8 of an inch away from the center. So I'm aligning the 3/8 line with the center of the seam, and then I will draw and I drew my the left side of the zipper. Also I will feel for the zipper stopper, and it's here, and that's where I'm going to do the right angle at the bottom of the zipper stop. Okay, once I have this marked, I will run a basting stitch to hold the seam allowance, all the layers together basically, so that I can stitch right right next to it. Why 3/8 of an inch? So that it's wide enough, and at the same time I'm sure that my needle will stitch all the layers together and there isn't any part of the seam allowance that will be missing the stitch. So I did baste the zipper in place, and I will take it to the machine and I will stitch it in place. I need the zipper foot to hold onto the fabric on the right side, and I will be stitching on the left side, because if I do it the opposite way it's going to be over the zipper tape, and that will actually kind of mess up the stitching. So I am moving to the left side zipper foot for this purpose. Okay, so and then I will use my basting line as a guide. So I will be right outside of that basting line. So my edge is going to be on the basting line, and then my needle will stitch right outside there. Alright, and this is a permanent stitch, so I'll take few stitches forward and then backward. Do not exceed your seam allowance, and then from here I will be stitching. When I get to the corner, I'll keep my needle down and then pivot, and then again I'll keep my basting line touching the edge of the foot, and I will sew forward until I get here. When I come close to here, I will open the seam so that I can get the zipper pull out of my way. Actually, now that I basted everything together, I can do that, but I will keep it just for a while until I get close to the top of the seam. Okay, I'll keep my needle down, and then I can undo part of my seam. Okay, as you can see, it's very easy to take out because I already snipped the seam in several places. Alright, and I will be moving my zipper pull out of my way. I can raise my foot, it's not going to affect anything, and my basting stitch that I did a little bit ago is holding all the layers together. So now I can finish. Once I end my seam, I will back stitch few stitches. And I'm raising my foot, pulling my garment and cleaning up as usual, and snip all the unnecessary threads. Okay, and the last step will be undoing my seam. And it will stop where the last stitch is. And as you can see, here is the finished product. When the zipper is zipped, the left part is covering the right side that I fixed or I stitched to the right side of the zipper. So here is the zipper when it's zipped, and here when it's this is the zipper when it's zipped. And if I unzip it, it's working and functioning, and there is no problem. Again, here it's zipped, and you can see that the term left zipper because the wider side of the zipper is covering the attachment between the zipper and the right side. So it's lapped because it is covering, partially covering part of the right side and covering the stitching that I did. Once I'm done with that, I can now also remove my basting stitches. Alright, so I can do that, and I can take the basting stitch out, and what's left is the permanent stitch. I'll leave it partially so that you can see the difference. And that's it for this one. Once I iron my zipper, all the marks that I did with the heat erasable zipper will disappear, and what's gonna be left is the zipper in place. Also notice that my zipper got attached to the seam allowance, and there isn't any part that's not involved, so the stitching involving all the layers, nothing is skipped. So that's the right way also to stitch the left side. Okay, so this is it for the left zipper, and I'll see you on the next one.